Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte.
It is Live Music Friday, and we'll take you out of the studio into the basement of the Northampton Center for the Arts at 33 Hawley, where Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra are rehearsing for their spring performance.
And it's also Recorded Music Friday. UMass professor and saxophonist, or saxophonist? I never really know. I like them both.
Oh, no.
Felipe Salles has a new album out today, the third in a trilogy, all of which wrestle with the issue of immigration sonically, as most of the performers on these albums, including Felipe, are immigrants.
But first...
So you guys, you've talked about this many times.
Oysters!
Ta-da!
Where do these oysters come from?
I always buy oysters at Big Y. Believe it or not.
Shameless.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
They always have super fresh oysters. You can go, they're like a each. And I almost refuse to buy oysters in a restaurant because I'm not paying $3 for an oyster. So I'm like, I know how much this really costs. So
Yeah, but don't you want the restaurant to succeed?
I do want the restaurant to succeed, but I also like my bank account to succeed.
Overrated.
You know, we also, because this is about wine.
Is it?
Maybe not today.
I don't, maybe not today. But we thought we'd get a little fancy and do a little high-low competition in the Wine Thunderdome.
I love it. We are here at the epicenter of my wine world, in the wine bunker deep below State Street Fruit Store, Deli Wines and Spirits, with the wine son and the Yankee Sippa, the wine son who created the concept of the Wine Thunderdome that we've now migrated all over the place. Next week we'll be in Lenox again at Me James Wine. So we're drinking wine in all 4 counties. And yeah, so we're gonna drink a wine that goes well with oysters.
We're going to drink 2 wines that go well with oysters.
Because that's how it works. We can't just bring one wine to the Thunderdome.
But only one will leave.
In this case, it would be the wine versus the oysters if we only picked one wine.
I can already tell you oysters win. Did you already shuck these?
Yeah, I did this just a few minutes ago.
Oh, yeah. I learned how to shuck an oyster, though, for the first time,
did?
which I was proud of me. Awesome. Yeah, I got a lot of shell in there, but...
Least favorite job, working the line.
The Yankee Sippa was down here with the glove on, her fancy knife.
Well, I have to wear a glove now ever since my birthday incident where I cut myself and then lied about it.
And bled out for a few...
No, I didn't, but I have a piece of oyster shell stuck in my hand still that's working its way out nicely.
Oh. All right, I'm getting my oyster.
All right, get your oysters, guys. Consider the Oyster by MFK Fisher. She's like, so the preeminent, before there was Martha and all these, before there was James Beard, there was MFK Fisher. So she started the Napa Wine Library. One of her most famous books is Consider the Oyster. And it's just this lovely prose about oysters, recipes. So I recommend, it's a short book, but I recommend anyone picking it up. Because if you love oysters and just good living and wine, she is someone she should be a guiding light.
We haven't even touched the wine. We haven't opened the wine. We haven't looked at the wine. Allegedly, this is a wine Thunderdome.
This is the Wine Thunderdome. It's very exciting.
These are great.
They really are.
Yeah, these are
I love
awesome.
oysters. They're so bizarre and slippery and
Some people-
briny.
They're
and
so good for the environment, too.
So we were just saying that I think the average oyster drinks, which means filters, about 25 gallons of water a day.
Don't you feel bad that you just ate that one now?
no,
That's
not at
25
all.
gallons
No, and
less
they're
that'll
really
be
easy
filtered.
to grow too. Like coastally, like they're really easy to propagate. So like they can be great for waterways.
They're great filtering. In Long Island Sound, they have that big program where they're actually using the oysters to protect the shoreline. They are completely sustainable. If you are at your vacation home or on vacation somewhere and you buy oysters at a store, you should always ask where they get them. Sometimes they'll tell you you should put your oysters back into the ocean, close to where you've gotten them. So hopefully you're eating local oysters.
Like the shells?
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
Because they will just start making other oysters.
It's like magic.
I will put a few of them in my garden because the minerality is so great for your soil. I knew a woman on the Cape, she would always put 1 or 2 in her compost thing. There's a clothing line who make clothing out of oyster. They grind them up.
Is it like Ariel, the Little Mermaid's outfit?
Yes.
I can't wait to go to the beach, Goma. Although you're not allowed to drink on that beach anymore, so they say.
Oh, I never made it down to the beach to drink.
Anyway, the Wine Thunderdome.
So just about every dry white wine on earth could be said to pair with oysters. But why not go with a couple of French ones?
Sounds good to me.
One with a lot of cachet of placeware and another one that gets a little bit of short shrift in the States, maybe not in this store in particular. Not everybody knows what Piquant d'Épinay is. Comes from the south of France. It is a white wine only, AOC, and there are...
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Maybe
She's everywhere.
maybe she's
It's
a big fan.
wonderful.
No, what does AOC really mean for wine snob?
Ooh, what is the actual French?
Appellation
I know.
original contrôlé.
Yeah, but they don't use contrôlé anymore. It's protégé. So I think everything's going from AOCs to AOPs because of the Euro Union.
Couldn't they go with OPP?
So Picpoul des Épinay, I think there are 6 communes or cooperatives that produce Picpoul. The Picpoul des Épinay is from the producer Moulin des Gassac, and this one is maybe just a little bit more elegant, also a couple dollars more, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But you should never really break the bank. This one's 12. Oh, what did I say?
13 oysters.
13 oysters. I like that.
13
Clams.
oysters. No, not clams. This is a wine show. We're going with oysters. 13 oysters.
It smells a little minerally, which is really cool.
Perfect for the oysters.
So the Tau Lagoon it's considered a lake, but it has so much salinity that it's brackish, if not more so. And it runs from the mouth of the Rhone all the way down to Spain. There's this little band of land in between, and that's where a lot of these, it just causes a barrier. So you're getting all the minerality of the ocean. The acidity is really nice. Picpoul in the local dialect means lip stinger.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Pig pile on my lips.
I actually see a bottle behind you with a word on it that is immediately what I thought of for this, and it's silky.
Ah, yeah, nice.
I'm going to have an oyster because I just had a sip of wine.
I'll have an
You're
oyster.
supposed to
Well, you
pair
got
it. Not supposed to just plow through this like there's no tomorrow because there's oysters in front of my face and I can't help myself.
The oyster that is still blissfully on my palate and this wine both share the most similar briny quality. It's fantastic.
Wow. For a briny East Coast oyster, this is perfect.
Yeah. So the second wine.
Every oyster I eat, I'm just helping the environment. That's how I feel.
Yeah, the second wine.
The second wine, this is Domaine Guiguen. This is from Celine and Frédéric Guiguen. They own property all over Chablis.
Chablis is in Burgundy. It is Chardonnay.
Only Chardonnay is permitted there. And a lot of people don't realize that Chablis is actually closer to Paris than it is to the rest of Burgundy. And so it shares all that Kimmeridgian soil that often runs. It actually runs all the way from England. All the way from England.
Dover.
White Cliffs of Dover
Go under the ocean and come right back up and make wonderful wine in
Yeah.
all of France. So one of the things we love to talk about Chablis is that traditionally 0 oak in Chablis Chardonnay. So lots of minerality, really clean, and where the other one had lots of salinity and acidity. It's not that this doesn't have a lot of acidity, but it doesn't come out in that same spiky
Yeah.
fashion.
It's not like a pig pile on your lips like the pig pile.
I feel middle like a sandwich.
I feel like this is a much leaner wine.
One of the things we talk about when pairing food is do you want to juxtapose the flavors and have them really play off each other?
Sweet and salty?
Or do you want to match them up as close as possible and have them sort of combine into something new?
Immigrant powers, activate! Shape out an eagle!
And I think both are very valid methods of pairing wine.
There's only 3 oysters left.
Oh my goodness.
This is the saddest part. Again, the oysters. Still winning by a landslide.
So it's
This second combination really does do a totally different thing, doesn't it? I love what it does to the wine. I love what it brings to the oyster. It's funny, I think what you're looking at is this a candlelight dinner oyster moment, or is this a Saturday afternoon in the blazing sun oyster moment? And that might inform your opinion of what wine you're picking here.
Definitely. When I illegally bring a bottle of wine to Cahoon Hollow Beach to the Beachcomber this summer, it's probably going to be the pig pool. Okay, we must make a decision.
So the Picpoul is wonderful in its simplicity. It's a stealth enclosure. It's a screw cap. You open it, you enjoy it, and you move on. There's a lot more going on with the Chablis. It's a little more complex. It keeps changing. It is a little bit more than double the output from your wallet.
Tubman, Lincoln, Washington, Washington, Washington. Or 28 oysters.
28 oysters at happy hour.
But I think it's an easy choice for me. It's the Chablis.
I'll go second. I agree. The Chablis is the better wine. My favorite wine with the oysters right now, though, the Picpoul. So I choose both, but if I have to choose for wine, it's the Chablis.
I want to love this Picpoul because I just love Picpoul. I think it's a great wine. It goes with all types of seafood. But with this particular setup and the pairing of the oysters, I'm going to have to vote for the Chablis.
So the thing is, I agree with you. I'm not.
He is
but-
Monty.
But My question is, was this a Thunderdome on which wine goes with the oysters or which wine by itself that we liked?
It's kind of both at the same time.
Oh, that's a good point.
So that's why I voted that way.
For wines drinking on their own, it's the Chablis, but with the oysters, I think I agree with you where the people is like does something with that brininess, with that salinity that I really, really love.
It brought it to another level, didn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
I was rooting for the magic that happens in my mouth when the Chablis went with the oysters, and
Yeah.
it didn't quite happen.
But
We've all heard about
but it
the
turns
magic
out
in your mouth. Wow.
Yeah. I get a chill all the way up
Oh
and
my
down
God,
my
I
spine.
just threw up in my mouth.
Oh, I can't say this. The sentence that was about to be said by me was the salty spike that happens in my mouth, and I can't say that after what you said.
I'm so glad I'm not the one saying all this right now.
I think what we're saying is, in the Wine Thunderdome, the Chablis is the winner. In the Oyster Dome, the Peak Pool is the winner.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Everyone's a winner.
Oh God, I hate when
Man, now
everyone.
we- wait.
Now everyone gets a trophy in the wine.
No,
Thunderdome.
but now we can use that hot chocolate song.
Everyone's a winner, baby. That's the truth.
Or the Tom Waits one.
Everyone's a winner. Bargains galore. That's right. You too can be the proud owner of the Glorious Evil. The
The J
name
goes on.
Yeah, all right.
The large print giveth and the small print taketh away.
Let's only do our show about wines that go with oysters.
I'm here for that.
We found our niche market.
Monty, you won't be going to other stores anymore.
Does it feel like I'm cheating on you every time I do another segment with somebody?
Yes.
Every time.
I don't listen to those segments.
I heard Joe run off and go get cheese, and I was like, well, that does it. We're up in our game.
We're coming to
We
see.
didn't ask him to get cheese.
He just vanished. I came back with
I
it.
know you didn't.
We're coming to see you again next week,
That's it.
Joe.
We're like, that is it. I walked in the office. I'm like, we're doing this.
I've already recorded a whiskey show today.
Oh, guess who's cheating on who now?
No. It's not cheating if you left.
I'm
going to
It's all happening right in your old time slot, Monty.
Yeah.
reintroduce everyone to the idea of open relationships. As long as everybody knows who's going where and when, then it's all cool.
Oh, sweetie, I'm getting married. That ain't happening anytime soon.
Coming up later in the show for Live Music Friday, we'll take you to where the 18 guitar and one drummer Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra are rehearsing for their spring performance.
Up next, UMass professor and saxophonist Felipe Salles. His album out today is called Home is Here, his third album with the Interconnections Ensemble, all of which draw inspiration from his fellow immigrants in the jazz community.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM.
Friday is Live Music Friday here in the Fabulous 413, but today it's also Recorded Music Friday, because Friday is now traditionally when new albums come out, and that is the case with the new album from saxophonist, composer, band leader, and professor Felipe Salles and his Interconnections Ensemble. They're going to be doing a live show in the middle of June 17th at Bombyx in Florence.
Beautiful place to see jazz.
Yeah. Felipe Salles joins us in studio today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on the album. It's always a feat getting, especially like an ensemble, into the recording studio. You deserve congratulations for getting it done.
Thank you so much.
problem.
It is. And when you have to deal with 20 different personalities plus 8 guests, let me tell you.
That's a mountain there, Sisyphus.
Tell us about some of the band and the guests. How many of them have connections here in Western Massachusetts like you do as a professor at UMass?
So I think one of the beauties of having a band like this is that it's a multi-territorial and multi-generational band, you know. So I have people in the band who are colleagues of mine, like Professor Jeff Holmes, and then I have people in the band who were my students here at UMass, like Kevin Grudecki or Mike Cadell. And then I have people who I've played for the last, 20 or more years together. And so it's like people who are coming from all these different times of my musical life since I've been here, and from Connecticut and the Boston area and the Western Mass area, and even some people from New York, you know.
You're not making this sound like any less of a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a logistical nightmare.
Where did you all record this then, if you're all coming from such disparate places?
We normally rehearse in Boston, which is the closest point for everybody to reach. And we were going to record in Boston, but there was a last-minute issue with studio and engineering. I don't want to get into it. But we ended up recording at this beautiful studio in Connecticut, which is a replica of the iconic Avatar studio in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end, it was actually interesting how it all worked out. But this studio was the perfect studio for something that large, and also because we were filming everything, there's actually 4 videos now out on my YouTube channel, and then 4 more coming. You know, there was multi-camera, so that was the perfect place to do it all. At the end, ended up being better to record in Connecticut.
We're speaking with Felipe Salles, whose new Interconnections Ensemble album, Home is Here, is out today. They're playing a show June 17th, Saturday, at Bombyx Center for Arts and Equity.
It seems like the name of the ensemble, Interconnected Ensemble, is kind of at the root of the music that you're making, too. Can you speak about, like, the various diasporas you're tapping into for this album?
Yeah, I think it speaks to a lot of different things. One, all the influences that come from different ways in which African music got into the music that we play now. I'm from Brazil, so there's that influence in the Brazilian music, and then there's the jazz part of it, and it's kind of connecting with all this other elements from African music, direct from Africa, and then there's some funk stuff, and there's all kinds of other things going in there, as well as, of course, some classical harmonies, because I love the orchestrational, and so I try to bring it all together. But also the way I write in a very layered, counterpoint-based way in which lots of different things are happening at the same time. Some people say it's a little overwhelming to listen to, but I guess, but it's all interconnecting, you know?
As like a math rock nerd, I love that stuff so much. Working in counterpoint is so much fun.
I consider a career in math, and then I decided for music, but
It's
I mean,
still
it's
math.
all in there. It's all in
It's
there.
still math. Our math is just abstract and weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
So are you composing this where everyone comes in and they're presented sheet music?
I composed, the process of composing this was very interesting because, I write all the music for the ensemble, and I write it for the ensemble. So there's several things. I don't write it as a piece that then later on I'm going to expand to the ensemble. It's written for the ensemble as the instrument, but also for the people who are playing in the ensemble. So in this tune, I'm going to have, let's say, a trombone solo. I think about, which trombonist in my band I would like to solo, and I have the privilege of having people I know really well, and I can feature them in what I think it would be the best light for them. But also in this project, I have 8 different guests.
Uh-huh.
And so the other part of what I do is I like to be talking about a lot of social issues when I'm working on my music. And this is the 3rd part of a immigration series that started with my personal journey through lullabies that have been carried through many generations in Brazil, and how I see myself ending up here. So that was the first project, which was called the Lullaby Project. And then we move into a more political realm with the new immigrant experience, which was all multimedia interviews with DACA recipients, and very intense. We actually performed that recently. And now Home is Here, which is talking to my community of jazz musicians. So I chose 8 people I really admire in the jazz community who are also immigrants like myself. And we had these conversations over the time that everybody was at home during the pandemic, where you could reach people out on Zoom. And I said, hey, I have this project. Let's talk about your experience immigrating to the U.S. And I would like to write a piece inspired or informed by that conversation, which is what I did for each one of those pieces.
Is the music itself what's informed by those conversations, or is there actual text and words that are woven into the music?
No, the music itself. So every title is based on something that somebody said, right? And that title, plus I have a system in which I use a combination of letters and pitches. So I took everybody's name and kind of transformed into pitch sets.
Wow.
And then
awesome.
That is amazing. It's math.
But at the same time, you know, I took the idea of the conversation and then made it into something that the music represents. So, for example, Paquito de Rivera, which is I'm a big fan of his music, and he's covered so much ground with playing with Piazzolla and playing with the Iraquere and playing Brazilian music and all that, and playing classical music as well. So I wanted to write him a suite that would sort of be this trip through his musical life, right? And we were talking during this conversation, during the pandemic, everybody kind of trying to figure out what was going to happen with the industry and et cetera. And he said, one of the good things about us is that we are jazz musicians. We improvise and we're constantly reinventing ourselves. So I took that idea of reinvention and I played with the idea of writing like a Bach invention, but if it was like mixing that with Piazzolla and mixing that with Brazilian music and mixing that with like Afro-Cuban music. So the piece starts kind of classical. Then it moves into like a tango-esque thing that he plays an incredible clarinet solo on. Then it kind of moves into a Brazilian vibe that is sort of like chamber music with woodwinds. At the end, it turns into a big salsa thing with him playing alto. So the piece is 10 minutes long. It's like 3 movements, basically. And it starts very classical, consonant triads type of thing, and it ends with this big brass chords there. It's like somebody opened the doors of hell or something like that. Based on the conversation, but also based on his musical life and, the way I wanted to create this big journey that culminates into this end part.
That is so cool. Do you ever compose for smaller components of your ensemble? Is it always the 20, always the 19 that you're composing for?
No. It's actually, the core of my ensemble is a trio, bass, drums, and piano. So sometimes we go on a road, just the 4 of us. I have music written for that. I have music written for a quintet, a sextet, and a septet, and then the big band. So for example, this summer we're going to Brazil on a tour to this amazing festival in the Amazon. And we're playing at the Manaus Opera House with a sextet. So that music is the trio plus me plus 2 more horn doing just sextet versions. It's not the same as a big band, but, we try to make it as good as possible with 6 instruments.
As we mentioned, logistics. It's very difficult to get like 19 people organized to go out of the country, let alone within the country.
Can
to
you
go
imagine?
And perform. Like my band has half as many members and it's already hard for us. So I can't even imagine the strain.
I know. Sometimes I don't know why I'm doing it. But then when I listen to the results, I go,
exactly.
Now I know.
That's what
I've met in my musical life. Some I played with, some I grew up with, some I hung out with, and I thought they would be great guests in this album.
And all of whom share the immigrant experience with you, all
Absolutely.
of which translated into music on this brand new album, Home is Here, from Felipe Salles and the Interconnected Ensemble. How many people total are in the band?
Yes, with me conducting 19 people. So it's like 5 saxophone players with woodwinds, all the doubles, 4 trumpets, 4 trombones. And I have a large rhythm section with piano, bass, drums, vibraphone, and guitar.
Vibraphone, yes.
Yes, it's a beautiful instrument.
How do you find conducting versus playing with the ensemble? Because I'm assuming at other points, like, you get to play with them instead of just directing.
Rarely.
Rarely?
Once in a while I'll write a solo for myself in a place where I don't have to conduct anything, then they're going to be all right. But I feel like my job with the ensemble is to conduct, because I find it when I write music for large ensemble, I find very hard to play it because I'm constantly preoccupied and thinking about all the parts being there and everything. So over the years, I thought, it would be better if I just conduct and then let people play, and I don't have to showcase. Although in this record, I take one solo, but I don't have to showcase myself. The music is my instrument, the conducting is my instrument. And I'm perfectly happy with that. I'm perfectly happy not playing it and just conducting.
The album is out today. It's called Home is Here. Another thing Felipe Salles, who joins us in studio, that I love about it is the cover art of the album is a snail. Again, harkening back to the immigrant experience, tell us about the cover art.
Yeah, it's that cover art is really funny because it has a lot of layers as my music seems to be. I thought I was going to go into mathematics or biology. I was very into biology, and I did raise escargot, snails, as a kid. My mom, God bless her, had a lot of patience. I had a escargot farm in my bedroom.
Oh my!
And
word.
I had at a point 200 snails in that. Yeah. I bred them and I studied their life cycle and reproduction cycle. They're amazing. They're very cool. I always loved that kind of stuff, but obviously music took over. And one day I was in Viljandi, which is the countryside of Estonia, and I was leaving Viljandi to go back to Tallinn and take a boat back to Finland. And I was just admiring how beautiful these old houses were. There were all these wooden houses that were painted these beautiful colors. And I looked at this one fence that was painted blue, and it had this beautiful, like, crackly effect. And I saw this little snail going up the fence, and it was just like the perfect picture. And I had my cell phone with me, and I went click, took that picture, and I said, well, maybe one day I'll use this. And then when this album was getting ready, and I was trying to figure out what is that I'm going to put in the cover of this album, and I thought, one of the things we talked about a lot as artists is the idea that home is here, but it's here now because that's where you get to do your art. So in a way, your art is your home. You have to take it wherever it's possible to do it. You don't sacrifice that for any geographical place per se. So what would be better than a snail that carries its own house with it, So we're kind of snails in a way, we carry our art with us, and we actually have to have patience because things can go very slow.
I'll try not to think of the escargot thing that you talked about before, so yeah.
They are delicious.
Yeah,
they are
really
delicious.
are. I love it so
I
much,
couldn't
but-
eat my own, though.
That's fair. That's understandable.
Felipe Salles is a jazz saxophonist, a professor of jazz and African American studies at UMass Amherst. The new album, Home is Here, out today from the Interconnections Ensemble. There'll be a live presentation of this at Bombix on Saturday, June 17th. Thank you so much, Felipe.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent.
Thank you. This is wonderful. Up next, more music. We'll take you out of the studio into the basement of the Northampton Center for the Arts at 33 Holly, where the Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra are rehearsing for their spring performance. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM.
That is the warming up sounds of member one of the Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra, at least. We're here at the Northampton Center for the Arts at 33 Holly Street with the maestro of the Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra. What's your name, sir?
Joseph Ricker, here with you.
For those who aren't familiar with the Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra, first...
If you've been listening to our show, you've been hearing them in the billboards every day.
Yeah, we've used the music that Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra created and your cover of Wilco's song, One Wing, as our kind of theme music for the thing that tells what's going to be on the show and for the promos. I've been a fan for a long time. But for those who have not heard of Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra, what is it?
Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra is a group made up of anywhere between 15 and 20 acoustic, electric, classical, bass guitarists. We have a drummer as well. It's a community orchestra. It's an avant-garde, large ensemble made up of members of the community from a variety of musical backgrounds.
It was the brainchild of Peter Blanchette, who is famous locally for creating a guitar that he could more easily play the music of, say, Bach on. Instead of having a lute, he created an arch guitar. And you can still see him busking sometimes on Main Street in Northampton. But he's handed the baton over to you. When did you take over as maestro, Joe?
I've led the group for 5 years now.
Wow, it feels that was a long that was a very short 5 years.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a long, short 5 years.
Yeah, and the people who play in this orchestra are not necessarily professional guitar players. They're all proficient guitar players, but not always professional. Is that right?
Yeah. This is an amateur ensemble, and as you know, that means people who love to do it. We get a handful of pro players, but on the other hand, the people who aren't pro players, in air quotes, are often just as good as the pros. So that's the way it works.
But I can't just show up and butcher some bar chords and hope to enter the Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra. I need to be able to play at least somewhat proficiently, and then learn to read music too, even if I hadn't before, right?
Yeah, that's right. We people in this group don't necessarily come to the ensemble with a background in playing in a large ensemble, because guitarists typically don't. But we all learn to do it, and some of us fake our way through reading music, and and some of us memorize everything. But we all come to the same place in the end.
Remembering from my classes, if you can do tab, you can probably get through a score pretty well as long as you can translate to like the cheats at the top.
Tablature is a way of writing guitar and other instruments music that is not in the standard staff notation that can sometimes make it easier for certain people to learn it. But this looks like staff notation with the G clef and all of the 8th and 16th notes and all that stuff.
We don't talk about tablature.
I'm just saying that if you know.
Yeah. But you are somebody who comes from more of a traditional musical type of theory background, right?
I started playing guitar as a self-taught rock player, but quickly moved to classical guitar and had a classical training.
So you're not only the maestro, but you'll be playing as well, right?
Oh yeah, I always play.
And so this is your classical guitar that we see here.
That's right. Yeah, we have a classical guitar section, and I'm basically a member of that section. Yeah.
Do you have chairs like standard orchestras?
No. Nope.
So you're not the
You
first
don't
chair.
have like the first classical chair and like the first like electric chair.
It sounds bad to have an electric chair in your orchestra.
Or super metal.
Yeah, that's true. Ride the lightning. Somebody who may be in one of the first electric chairs. There's a little bit of nepotism right now, at least in the best way, with Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra. Your dad is in the orchestra.
That's right.
Let's go talk to your dad, because he's right over here. What's your name, Dad?
Mark Ricker.
And you are playing an incredible guitar.
I'm playing the 1967 Jazzmaster,
It's real pretty and there's pictures.
which is probably responsible for me staying with the guitar and for Joe learning.
Yeah, so tell me about that. You picked up this guitar when you were a young person?
13, and I started playing jazz at about 16 years of age, and played around this area quite a bit. And Joe, always having great guitars sitting around the house, took it up, and after a few years of rocket and blues guitar, he started some classical lessons, and he always had incredible tenacity, so it was a perfect fit for him. And here he is today with just great musical sensibilities, and it's a treat to see him do what he does so well here.
Is it fun to be in a band with your son?
It's a real thrill, yes, just to see how much he can do and how he can coordinate herd a bunch of cats into
cool cats, as it were, guitar-playing cats.
So yes, it's been a great experience. I've been here for 4 years.
When did you know that Joe had a gift? As his father, who was playing guitar since you were a kid, playing this jazz master and playing jazz in the 1960s, etc.
Right. I would say after he studied classical guitar for about 2 years, when I knew that he was going to surpass me in my skills.
He Luke Skywalkered you Darth Vader.
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Your repertoire is really incredibly broad. How do you choose what you're going to do for your concerts?
That's really my favorite part of the leading the orchestra is choosing the music, because I have a really wide-ranging interest in music, and I feel like there's a lot of music out there that's really great that people don't get to hear. And since this is an ensemble like no other, we have no set repertoire, and we can basically play whatever we want, or we can't play whatever we want. So that's my favorite part. And it really comes down to three things. What am I interested in right now? What am I interested in arranging? What can this group do really well? Each group is different. And what is the audience going to appreciate? What are they going to like? What's going to stretch their minds? And with those three things, I come up with our wacky programs.
Do you end up doing a bit of transcription in this too for the orchestra?
Yeah, I arrange everything. So, there's nothing written for guitar orchestra, so I arrange every note that's played.
Is this something that you were already doing beforehand, or is this a skill that you had to learn when you took the baton 5 years ago of the Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra, as we were in your rehearsal space at 33 Holly, where your spring concert will be on Saturday, May 27th?
Yeah, Saturday, May 27th. You can hear all this stuff we're talking about. No, I learned on the job, as it were.
Yeah. What will we be hearing at that spring concert?
So our program is called 800 Years. So we have a program that ranges from music written in 1198 AD.
Which is what?
So that's music written for the Christmas Eve service at the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, 1198 AD. So this is a piece
when
by
Jesus was still just little.
Yeah, he was just a little guy. And so it's a piece by Perrotin. It's a four-voice motet that I've arranged for this group, ranging from that to a piece that I wrote, several pieces that I wrote for the orchestra just recently. So that's the 800 Years. And along the way, we make stops with the 17th century Italian composer Domenico Scarlatti, modern composers Igor Stravinsky and Aram Khachaturian, and music from the rock pop world from the 1960s and 1990s by the Beatles and Stereolab. It's going to be quite a program.
That sounds amazing. Well, maybe we'll get to meet a couple of the orchestra members here before. You're officially our Live Music Friday, so even though we've left our studios to bring the live music, we are still going to hear your live music, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Who should we go talk to? Who's not busy? This guy with the massive pedal board has been ready to go since we got here.
Monty, I have a question for you.
I'm the one asking the questions here.
You never know what you're getting into when you come into this room.
What's your name?
My name's Bob.
Where are you from, Bob?
Northampton.
Yeah.
Which guitar do you play? I feel like that's the list of questions that we need for people. It's like, who are you? Where are you from? What guitar do you play?
I'm in the electric section. I play a 1978 Les Paul Custom, Gibson. My question to you is the run-in to your show. My wife thinks it's Havgo's version of One Wing.
It is. Yes, we confirmed that with Joe and asked the permission of the former maestro Peter Blanchette. And we credit you every single episode.
Yep.
What is the most challenging piece for you to play? I'm going to make assumptions about your ability to play certain things given the guitar that you have, and maybe your hair and your clothing. That maybe you come from more of a rock background, but I could be wrong. What's the most challenging piece for you to play in this?
I have particular difficulty with tempos that are ultra rapid. I like more the
slow hand.
The slower pieces. But Joe knows that. He makes us suffer through it anyway. But he's very good at writing parts for all of us that he knows will be good parts.
Yeah, he doesn't give you the Yngwie Malmsteen solos?
No, but he gives us things that are challenging so that we grow as musicians. My friend Dave and I, we've been in the orchestra since Peter started it.
Wow. And how long ago was that? Do you remember?
Maybe 12, 13 years ago,
wow.
maybe.
You've got your pedal board set up.
Two screamers.
Yeah. What's your name?
My name's Dave Freed.
And where are you from?
West Hartford.
Nice. Oh, so you make a little bit of a trek to come to.
Yeah, I used to live closer, but I've moved since.
Tell us about your guitar.
It's orange.
Do you want to tell what kind of guitar it is? Because some people are going to love it, and other people are going to judge you about it, I think.
That's right, probably. It's a Paul Reed Smith Custom 24.
Yeah. People who play Paul Reed Smith usually can play the Yngwie Malmsteen solos.
No, that's not.
What's one of the most challenging pieces for you? Or one that you're particularly excited?
Well, so as for challenging, I think it's the piece that starts out with 40 measures of rest. You have to sit there and just count. Yeah. And heaven forbid if you, and it's a round, so it's really hard to find where, the only way to know is by counting. But there's also a lot of really great stuff here that is a lot of fun to play. Nice. We're looking forward to the show.
Get out of your way.
Step on my pedal.
I'm not gonna.
Step on all the pedals.
What does this one do? What does this one do? What does this one do?
I don't know how to reset it.
We're going to interrupt the maestro, Joe, while he's tuning up again.
I have a couple of extra questions. Do you find any time period particularly difficult to transcribe?
Yeah. Honestly, anything with lots of notes. The more notes, the harder it is. In all seriousness, I'd say the hardest thing is like the purely classical, like the most quintessential classical you could imagine, Beethoven, Mozart, etc. That period, it tends to be, a very complex, very full of notes that are harder to follow for people who aren't with that background. So.
And do your members often bring you songs to have as part of the repertoire? And I don't want to say, are they judged because of it, or do they sometimes make it into the program?
Rarely do they make it in.
I'm the maestro here.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, this is my band. I know the feeling. Yeah, I was that guy too.
I am not always that girl, but sometimes I am that girl.
What's your name?
I'm Stacy Stiles. I'm from Holyoke.
Tell me about your guitar.
Well, it's a Martin 00028, and it's the guitar that I bought myself several years ago. It was the guitar that I wanted all my life, and I finally was able to buy it.
Nice. And so you're in the acoustic guitar section.
Yes, I am.
What's the piece that you either find the most difficult or most invigorating?
You know what I like the most this program is, believe it or not, the Stravinsky. Because, Stravinsky and Guitar Orchestra, what could that sound like, so. But Joe is really amazing at putting together these short pieces. And I feel like this suite of Stravinsky pieces are like poems to me. I hear poetry. They're short, they're eloquent, they're deep, and they're not so hard to play, which actually is nice.
Yeah.
Up next for Live Music Friday, we'll hear this 18-guitar chorus perform 2 songs.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM. Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. For Live Music Friday, here's a performance from the Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra. Plot is Canon in D, written by Joseph Ricker, the conductor of the Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra, for that ensemble.
One more for Live Music Friday from the Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra. I'm pretty sure you can guess which this is.
I don't know, it's pretty obscure. The Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra performing the Beatles' Dear Prudence for us for Live Music Friday. Their spring concert called 800 Years is on Saturday, May 27th at 33 Hawley in Northampton.
Next week in the Fabulous 413, a bishop who, like the Bible says, beats swords into plowshares.
Or in this case, firearms into farming tools.
We'll feature artists from the Center for New Americans who will be showcasing their talents and celebrating the diversity of cultures and traditions that enrich our region.
And an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker from Florence who is giving Western Mass a sneak peek screening of his new documentary before it makes its way nationally to PBS.
Our director is Tony, meeting the bigwigs on our behalf done.
Our engineer is Betsy. It's so much easier when you're not here, Cordis.
Our technical team is Bart. If you miss the tasting, you can't have any Rankin. Kara, where's your dad bod Foster? And Punk Rock Dubé.
Musical thanks to Spouse, Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra, Felipe Salles, Eric Clapton, and Yngwie Malmsteen. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte.
See you on Monday on the Fabulous 413.